Welcome back to another episode of Dentistry Talks, the podcast where we explore stories and experiences that bring wisdom and knowledge to the world of dentistry. I'm Gabby Bissett, your host, and I can't wait to introduce you to today's guest, Beck House. Resilience and recovery runs strong through Beck's journey. Her career in policing took an unexpected turn after experiencing a prescribed drug-induced psychotic episode, leading to treatment in a psychiatric unit. Her story sheds light on the importance of feeling understood in healthcare, the role of workplace culture in recovery, and the parallels between high-stress professions like policing and dentistry. In this conversation, we'll dive into what resilience truly means, how Beck's experience has shaped her perspective on prescribed medications, and the crucial role of support systems in overcoming challenges, particularly those relating to mental health. Whether you're facing stress, burnout, or simply looking to understand it better, stay tuned as we unpack valuable lessons with Beck House. Hello. Welcome to the Dentistry Talks podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm excited for this chat. It's one that we an area that we haven't explored before, and obviously you've had a very unique journey, and I'm really glad that you've come on to talk about it, because I think there's a lot there that the audience can take away and learn from. I'm going to throw you straight in the deep end, just to kick us off with the question: what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience. So it's a very broad thing, resilience, isn't it? But for me personally, I think and from my journey that I've had, it's been able to I've been able to overcome what I went through, which obviously we'll talk about later on through my mental health crisis. But it's being able to, like I say, come back from that very dark place that I was at and that I went through. And building on that, really. I think for me, resilience is being in a dark place and getting out of it through different coping mechanisms, which is what I did and which I learned over the course of those months and years after I became ill. And it's a number of things, really, like support networks for me, which what helped get my resilience back on track. And I think because I was in the police for so long as well, you have to have a certain level of resilience anyway for the jobs that you go to and the trauma that you're exposed to. And especially during the early days of my police career, when I initially joined, I didn't realise how resilient I was, really.
Can we go back to the beginning then of that career? So just to kind of give this conversation a bit of context, obviously you spent a long time in the police. So what prompted you to kick off that type of career?
Yeah, funnily enough, I'd always wanted to be in the police, from the age of 5.
It's so rare you have that.
I know. I used to watch like police programs even though I was really young, and I just had that fascination about it. I loved the excitement about it, even though I was only really young. And I think the element of helping people as well. I've always kind of been that kind of person where I get a lot out of helping people and giving people things. It just fascinated me and kind of went on from there, really. And that was my whole goal, that going forward, my education, everything I did, the voluntary work, was all in the process of kind of getting into the police.
I think this might sound a bit odd. I think there are some parallels between policing and dentistry in the sense that they're both extremely high pressured. You mentioned there as well, you liked helping people. A lot of dentistry falls into that category too, be it if it's an aesthetic motivation or medical, to get people out of pain. There's a kind of similarity there in that you've got to enjoy helping people to do both of those careers.
Yeah, definitely.
What did you find? How did you cope? Did you find that it was a job that put a lot of pressure on you? Did you handle that okay from the outset? Did you think that was something that you had a handle of?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Like I was quite young when I joined. I was 21 when I applied. I was 22 when I got in, and I went straight onto like 999 response driving at Blackpool, which was a really busy place.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So although I'd done a lot of travelling and had voluntary work prior to going into the police, and I'd like to think I had life experience, it was a very high pressure job going straight in, the stresses and the trauma that you're exposed to, like other emergency service jobs or the NHS. You see things that no one should ever have to witness or see. So yeah, I did. Although I took it in my stride, I think looking back at it now, it was really hard, to be honest. And that kind of led on to part of my crisis really further down the line.
Yeah, so I know you're comfortable talking about this.
Yeah.
So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what that crisis looked like for you, and let us know if there were any signs in the run-up to that?
Yeah, so I was at Blackpool.
Yeah.
I was on the public protection unit at the time, so I was 7 years into my police career, and everything was going well. I had a steady relationship, my job was going really well. And then I had a couple of personal traumatic incidents in my life. My nana, who I was really close to, died suddenly, and then my relationship broke down not long after that.
Okay.
And my mental health started to decline in the way of, I'd always been a really conscientious person at work. I was always first in the door in the morning, last out the door at night. I loved my job. I was passionate about it. But my work started to get affected. I started to phone in sick because I couldn't face anyone, because I couldn't face how I was feeling, because I started to become withdrawn. Didn't want to see people, which was totally out the norm for myself, because I was always a bubbly person on the team at work. So my mental health started to decline, and obviously my family and friends started to get really worried about me, and they kept telling me, you need to go to the GP, you need to go and get some advice. So reluctantly I went, because I thought I would be able to just come out of this period of feeling down. I didn't like to label myself as depressed. So I went to my GP, and literally within a 5-10 minute consultation, I left with a packet of antidepressants. I wasn't offered any grief counselling from a nana or any help like that. So I went home, reluctantly again. I took the antidepressants, thinking, hopefully they'll make me better. I've been given these for a reason. But unfortunately, they enhanced my anxiety. Made me feel a lot worse. So I went back to my GP, told them about this. But then again, I was given another set of antidepressants. So before I knew it, I was on a cocktail of medication, being weaned off some, put on others. My body was just full of medication at this point. So my anxiety just got worse and worse and worse, to the point that I started to feel suicidal off the medication. And it wasn't long before I was acting on those suicidal thoughts. I tried to harm myself. I tried to kill myself on a number of occasions. And it wasn't because I wanted to die. It was because I didn't know who I was anymore. Yeah. I'd lost my identity.
It sounds like a really, difficult and traumatic time for you. Is it, just to go back to, your family and friends feeling concerned about you, do you, well, first of all, actually, when was this? So what year was this?
So we're talking 2007. So nearly 18 years ago.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That's, it's odd to say that year was 18 years ago. I still feel like that was, I remember 2007, so the fact that that's in my living memory is odd. Conversations have come a long way now. So was there still, you say you were calling into work and things like that. Do you feel that there was a sort of stigma surrounding that? Was it at work around mental health, or was that not really something that was contributing to the, essentially, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you feel some shame around it?
Yeah, I personally felt ashamed. Yeah. I thought I'd joined this job as a police officer, as a professional, to help people, and I felt like I'd failed. I felt like I'd failed myself because I couldn't make sense of what was going on. I didn't feel like I was strong enough to do the job. So for me, I wasn't made to feel ashamed by other people. It was my own thing that I wanted to succeed, to thrive, to help people, but I felt that I couldn't because of my own mental health.
And this was exacerbated by the drugs that you were told that would help, essentially. It kind of was a drug-induced episode that you experienced.
Yeah, it was.
That must have been incredibly difficult for you. How did you climb out of that? What was there to help you recognise what was going on and get to where you are now?
Yeah, so obviously there was a lot to come after that. I was arrested because of for my own personal safety, and I was placed in a psychiatric unit for 28 days, which was horrendous. Yeah. But thankfully, it was the support of my family and friends, ultimately, and my family in particular, that fought to save me. No matter how much I pushed them away, they were always there for me. And I think for me, my main aim was to get back into the police. I knew I had to, and ultimately it saved me, really, getting my job back, because that had been my identity. I'd wanted it for so long. And I think if you're in those kind of professions as well, that's who you are. And without it, you don't know what you are. Do you get what I mean? I know it's only a job, but if it's something you're really passionate about doing.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
you know, for some people, I think jobs can be a means to an end. We live in a world where we need to make a living and we need to survive, and money, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, probably unfortunately is crucial in order to live a stable and, I guess, happy life to some extent. You know, there's a study that was done, I think they say that money does buy happiness up to a certain point. So there is, you know, we're all happier and feel safer and more secure if we've got an income. But for others, that job goes beyond that. It sounds like for you, it was very much part of who you were. Yeah. And you felt, I mean, the fact that you pursued a career that was something you aspired to as a young child is unheard of, honestly. I think actually I think a lot of the audience would perhaps, that would resonate with them, because dentistry, again, it kind of, I think the police, I always think of this, the police, dentistry, vets, these are kinds of a lot of jobs that you hear young children say, this is what I want to do aloud. And I love that became reality for you. I think that's a rare gift to be able to say that happened for you. Yeah. But do you feel, when you look back at that episode that you had, what emotions are brought up for you now? Is that something that time has helped you come to terms with a bit more? Is it still quite difficult to talk about and think of?
Yeah, I think it will always be there, like any trauma in anyone's life. But I think it gets easier the more I talk about it. Okay. I still can feel emotional talking about it. And I guess I don't want that to ever go, because I don't want to become desensitized about it, because it was such a traumatic time in my life. I think with any trauma, I don't think you ever get over it, but I think you learn to live with it. You learn to accept it, and that's a big part of the healing process, really. And it's kind of moving forward, although it's not easy. You can do it.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of people listening who may have not experienced something similar or even close to what you did, but may have something traumatic that's happened to them in the past, and it's something that they're grappling with, and they're struggling to either come to terms with it or live with it, or just, you know, move on with their life. What would your advice be to those people who might be in that kind of middle bit where they're you know, it's happened to them, they can function and they have a career, but it's still having quite a detrimental impact on their day to day? How did you move over to the bit where you were like, okay, this happened, and actually it can inform me now in a not a positive way, but a less destructive way than it did previously?
I think it's just, like I say, accepting it, having hope, knowing that you can get better. If you're having bad days, accept those bad days. Everyone has bad days, don't they? Regardless of whether you've been through major trauma or personal issues in your life or the stresses of work. I think it's just accepting it and not putting pressure on yourself, that if you do have a bad day, don't beat yourself up about it, or again put yourself under pressure to succeed so much. You're human at the end of the day, and you've just got to look after yourself and just set yourself small goals rather than big goals sometimes, that you're going to set yourself up to fail sometimes, aren't you? And no one likes to fail, do they? But you just have to be realistic within your own kind of goals, really.
Yeah, I think it's particularly difficult if you're a high achiever, or you're someone who prides themselves on doing a good job. I think you can have a bad day or a bad significant period of your life, and it can really throw you off balance and set you back and really make you reevaluate who you are as a person. But I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's important not to let that define you, and if anything, kind of mold it to the way that it can actually complement you as a person.
Exactly.
Because I mean, do you feel that it's taught you a lot, professionally and personally?
100%. Yeah. I think it's made me a much stronger person. I think you have to go through bad times in your life to come out stronger, and to realise even sad times, to be sad makes you, when you're happy, you appreciate it more, because you've been in that bad place. But yeah, definitely, it made me a better police officer when I managed to get back into the police after my illness. It made me a lot stronger, like I say, resilient, but more empathetic as well to other people that were going through other issues. I got it. I think it's anything like with lived experience, isn't it? With any kind of thing, with any trauma or illness, if you've gone through something, you get it, and it makes you a stronger person.
I'm intrigued. Obviously you said the episode that you experienced was induced by the drugs you were prescribed by doctors. Have you carried some kind of sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Has it changed your perception of prescribed drugs? Are you a bit sort of, do you take them with a pinch of salt now? Are you a bit apprehensive when it comes to conversations surrounding them?
Yeah, for me personally, I wouldn't touch medication, and that's just my own personal thing. I'm not saying that people shouldn't, but because I've not been on any kind of medication now for 14 years.
Okay.
Because the thought of it terrifies me, because that was a major contribution to obviously my psychosis. But likewise, I still think there's a place for medication. And what I've gone on to do now with my clients, I obviously don't discourage people from taking them, but I say there's other ways to manage your mental health. But I think if people are on medication, I always try and promote it, just to treat that medication with the respect that it deserves, because people probably will mess about with it, stop taking it, or over prescribe themselves. But yeah, it's just having that knowledge about it and respect for it, and ask for the reviews from doctors and things like that.
I think it's a bit, I feel sometimes on these podcasts I just sound like I'm moaning quite a lot, but I think in this day and age it's so easy to have access to things. It's still regulated. I sometimes use an online doctor service, and I think, wow, it's quite easy to get access to these antibiotics. I appreciate that's different to what we were discussing there, but it is kind of quite instant gratification. It's kind of the world we're living in now. So I can imagine, particularly with social media, there is a lot of misinformation that can be thrown about and can really confuse people who may actually need some help on what path to take. So it's great that that's something that you can help people to channel and make them aware that there's other options
definitely
that might work better in the first instance. So that's important. Getting back into policing, I think I hope this doesn't sound patronising, but incredibly brave to then return to that career after such a difficult period for you, particularly given the demands that we've spoken about that comes with that role. How was that always something that you were going to do? Did you know that was a move that you wanted to make? I need to go back to policing, and how did you begin that transition back into the police?
I think during my illness I always knew I wanted to get back in the police. I think at that time when I was at my poorest, I didn't think it was going to be achievable. I didn't think I would ever go back into the police, which devastated me. But as I started to go on a bit of a healing process and I started to get better, I thought, I can do this. I need to get back into the police. And like I said earlier on, 100% it saved me, because it was something to aim for. And again, it was to get me back. I didn't know what I would be without being a police officer. So, yeah.
You've mentioned the importance of your family in helping you get back on track when you were ill. How important was it for you to have that support, but also beyond the family side, colleagues, friends? How crucial was it for you, and how crucial is it for people who may be having a tough time to have a support system in place? Yeah,
absolutely. I think at the time I pushed everyone away around me, everyone that cared, because again, back to the shame thing, I felt ashamed. I didn't want people to see me at my lowest. That's why I shut off from everyone. But no matter how hard I tried, they were always there for me. And for me, it's vital to have that support network, because you need people. Everyone needs people, don't they? And you need those people around you just to be there, even if you don't accept the help at the time, to know that your family and friends and your colleagues are still there and they care about you, it makes you keep going, that you've got them there and you want, and for me personally, I wanted to do it for them in the end, more so than myself, like my family and my friends.
I can see that, yeah.
Because it hurt me to see them hurting so much.
Absolutely.
So it made me fight more to get better.
Flipping it in its head, there may be people tuning in today who are struggling to help a colleague or a family member or a friend who might be, you know, they clearly need some assistance and support, but the friend, similar to how you just described yourself, back in 2007, may be apprehensive to accept the support or actually just outright rejecting it. What would your advice be for those people who are trying to reach out but struggling to get through to that person? Is there any sort of practical ways that people can approach those who are vulnerable and actually are in desperate need of support but aren't willing to accept it at this current moment?
Yeah, I think it's hard because if someone's in that dark place like I was, you don't want to accept the help, and it's hard for that person that wants to help because it's frustrating, and it was for my family. They didn't get it, my mental health, and it's hard to get because everyone's mental health is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to see inside someone's head. It's different if you break your leg. People can empathise even if they've never broken the leg before.
It's a bit more objective, isn't it?
Yeah, but if in your head you can't climb inside someone's head, so it becomes frustrating for that person that's wanting to help a loved one, a friend, a colleague. But all I would say is that don't give up on them, no matter what. They might seem like they don't want your help, or they're not interested, or they might appear selfish in the ways, because mental health can come across as selfish. I know I did.
Yeah.
But I would say just don't give up on that person. Just make it known that you're always there, and if they're not accepting the help at the time, there's no harm in backing off, but just telling them that you are always there for them.
Reminding them that support is there if and when they need it, I guess.
Yeah. And if people want it and need it, they will reach out eventually. I guess people have to get their own head around stuff first as well.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I think this leads me on to the next question actually, but I think conversations have come such a long way, even in the last 5 years. I look back then and where things are at now, and I think it's wonderful and something to celebrate how these conversations are becoming a lot more transparent, a lot more open. But that doesn't mean the stigma is being it's not completely gone, and I think you're really well placed to maybe give your view on that. How do you think mental health conversations are at a good place now, and if there's any, are there improvements that are still needed to be made?
Yeah, I think from 18 years ago we're in a lot better place than it was back then, when I was ill. But I think there's always room for improvement with everything. I think mental health's massive now, isn't it? Everyone talks about it. There's different organisations. There's more podcasts on it. There's more, information on it and support. I think it's got a lot better, but I still think, again, for different organisations, in particular the police has got a lot better in supporting people and being open about mental health and supporting people. But again, like with anything, I still think there's room for improvement with stuff, and I think there always will be. Yeah. But I think regarding stigma, I think there's less stigma attached to mental health, and that's because more people are speaking out about it, aren't they? It's becoming less of a shame thing, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important that that's something that people feel they can be open about, and I think it's definitely important to encourage it in a work environment as well. Yeah. Things like sick leave, traditionally it's associated with physical sickness, the flu, maybe some more severe conditions and diseases, things like that. But I think we need to acknowledge that. I think even just sick leave needs to be made clear, I think, by employers, that this is for both mental and physical health.
Definitely.
I for one, don't associate taking leave for mental health still, even though I like to think of myself as quite a progressive, forward-thinking person. I think it's really odd, the stigma that you sort of carry with you, and to release yourself of that is not as easy as I think some people can make it out to be. It takes a lot of work on yourself to re-establish these associations and reframe how you look at things, and I think it's really important that that's made clear within the workplace. Definitely. As well. And I think a lot of dental practices have come a really long way with that. In our conversation prior to this recording, I explained that there's a huge mental health crisis within dentistry. As I mentioned earlier, it's high pressured, quite isolating at times. You're working long hours in a small practice with you and potentially a dental nurse, and they're working often weekends as well. And it's not just dentists, it's dental nurses, it's dental hygienists and therapists, all the way to the reception staff. It's a stressful environment.
Yeah,
particularly when you chuck NHS dentistry in there as well, which is super tricky to access at the moment and comes with all kinds of challenges. So I think your story and your experiences here will be really beneficial for those people.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has mental health, don't they?
Yeah.
Everyone has it. And mental health goes in hand with physical health. If your mental health's not right, it affects your physical health. If your physical health's not right, it affects your mental health.
Absolutely.
They're both equally as important, if not more so, your mental health. And no one's immune to it. It can happen to anyone. And it's just having that support and recognising it, isn't it?
There will be employers within dentistry who will understand that mental health is important to acknowledge and talk about with their teams, but might be struggling how to properly either start the conversation or have policies in place that support their employees. Have you got any practical ways that they can make it very clear that it is a safe place to work and that people are there to be leaned on if they need it?
I think, again, it's just, like having those open conversations, like you say, isn't it? It's making it clear from the start that it is a high-pressure job. I'm here to talk to if you want to. Don't let things build up. Don't let people get into a crisis or get to a point where it's harder to come back from. Maybe having those regular check-ins with people. Just, are you all right? Even if it's a weekly thing or a monthly thing, it's touching base with that person, and it's recognising if someone comes in bubbly and they are a bubbly character, but you start to see someone looking tired or becoming withdrawn, and getting the early warning signs for people as well, and not ignoring that and thinking, oh, they're just having a bad day. Just ask people. It's just about talking, isn't it? And just speaking to people. It's
funny because I think being asked, for me anyway, it can be a lot easier to be honest if somebody's initiated that conversation, whereas volunteering the information yourself can sometimes be really tricky, and actually you might not realise it yourself until somebody asks you, and it can even just plant a seed. You can go home that evening and be like, actually, why did they ask me that? I said no, I'm fine, but now I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I am. These behaviours have changed. I'm not enjoying doing this as much as I used to. And you can build a bigger picture, and it can lead to self-awareness, which I think is, well, from what you said, I'm self-awareness is probably the first step, I guess, to actually getting, improving your mental health and feeling healthy again. Because if you don't acknowledge that yourself, how are you supposed to move forward and improve? So it's really hard. You're right. I think how abstract it can be and how unique it is to a particular person makes definitely. It a really. I understand why it's a tricky topic to properly kind of understand and talk through. But we're getting there.
And we all do it, don't we? If you're feeling a bit down or just a bit low or upset about something, and someone notices it and they say to you, "Are you all right?" People automatically, most people go, yeah, I'm all right. And they do, don't they?
Yeah, you're programmed to just respond like that.
Everyone does it. And whether that's because you don't want to put on someone, or you don't want to acknowledge it yourself, or you can't be bothered talking about it, but everyone does it. I notice that more and more and more. Rather than saying, are you all right? Well, actually, no, I'm having a really bad day. Because you don't want to burden people, do you?
No,
and that's why people do it.
I think, everybody has their own... I was going to say shit to deal with. I will say shit to deal with.
I nearly said that.
No, it's fine. The audience is the audience are all adults. But everyone has their own shit to deal with. So it is. I think it comes from a good place that people aren't a lot of the time volunteering this information about themselves. It's well intentioned, but it can backfire in the sense that it means you end up keeping it in.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, particularly in the workplace, you spend more time with your colleagues than your family and your loved ones, really. So it might be that you feel a little bit more comfortable opening up to colleagues who might be able to it might relate to
people
them
get
more.
it, don't they?
Yeah, particularly if it's work related. That's the kind of trigger for them.
Yeah,
I think sometimes colleagues are brilliantly placed to ask another colleague, how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And it fosters a safe space, which I think is really important.
Definitely.
There will be people who think of mental health and roll their eyes. For whatever reason, conversations are too prevalent. This sort of, people are too weak. I'm using inverted commas there. People need to toughen up. This never used to be like this when we were younger. That's another example. I'm not just saying it's older people, by the way, but that is just something that I often hear. It's throughout all ages and all demographics. I think there are people who are skeptical about how crucial these conversations are, and think that it's almost relied on now as an excuse, to not pull their weight in a work environment or turn up to things. Saying no is something that people always promote. Don't be afraid to say no to things, and people think, they're just relying on that to get out of doing something.
Yeah.
When I was saying that to you, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I can relate to that because, again, back in the police and even being out of the police now, I've met a lot of people who, and you hear that phrase, don't you? They're playing the mental health card.
That's
and
it.
things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are people out there that do it. It's life, isn't it? And that's reality. People do. But that just kind of makes a mockery for the genuine people that are suffering with the mental health. And maybe that's why people don't come forward as much still and want to tell their employers that they're suffering from mental health, because they don't want people to automatically think, oh my God, I might think I'm playing the mental health card, even though they're genuine. And I think that's why a lot of people are scared to come forward sometimes, because of that stigma still with that.
Yeah. It's almost kind of gone the other way. It was so much progress in one direction, but then with that comes these skeptics, I guess, is a polite way to say that. And you're right, there are always going to be a few people in whatever conversation we're talking about who may, I guess, take advantage of the fact that conversation is being had.
Yeah.
It's important to not let the few ruin it for the many, and for the many it's really crucial that it's understood properly.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to run it by you, because obviously you're in the police. It's a challenging job. It comes with a lot of you're exposed to a lot of traumatic events, and you have to keep a chilled head in a lot of those situations. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued to see. You've obviously seen this develop. I mean, when are you still working now? Just for the audience.
I'm not in the police now. I had to leave 4 years ago.
Okay.
For reasons unconnected to this, I was assaulted badly at a job, at a 999 job. Got an injury. I couldn't be frontline anymore, so I took early ill health retirement. So no, I've gone on now to create my own company, my own community interest company called Strength in Struggles, which I've run through my own lived experience. So yeah.
How's that been for the last 4 years?
Oh, amazing. Well, I've only done it recently. So I only did it back end of 2023. I set it up. So it's only been going just over a year. But yeah, it's been amazing for me to turn kind of my illness and horrendous experience into something positive. Now I've gone on to help others within East Lancashire deal with their mental health now through alternative therapies to medication and peer-to-peer support groups, and it's been amazing and it's working really well. That's really good. I can imagine that's also comes with challenges too. But you must be able to do you stick with people throughout their entire journeys and see sort of how they improve? They come to me, they self-refer through to me, or organisations refer through to me, and I've been working with people for months now, and it's a slow process like it is with everyone, and everyone's completely different, but the benefits and the that I've seen over the months with individual people, it's so good to see people's mental health just improving just by talking again through the peer-to-peer support groups or trying the alternative therapies that I offer. I couldn't ask for anything better, really. That's amazing. To have had such a fulfilling career and then to have this chapter come afterwards as well is incredible, and I really love that you're using
your own experience to help others perhaps go through something similar, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see if that kind of support had been available to you at the time. Would that have perhaps changed outcomes for you? Is that something that you've ever sort of thought about?
I often think that, to be honest. I mean, I don't know whether it's hard, isn't it? Because I don't know whether I would have taken it back then.
Yeah.
But I was never offered like a peer-to-peer support group, which I think I personally would have benefited going to it, because you're with like-minded people. You're in a non-judgmental environment. People get it when they say that they feel suicidal or they feel this, they feel that. And it's no disrespect to other people, family and friends that are trying to help you. But if you've never been through mental health, like I said earlier on, it's hard to understand.
Absolutely.
But with other people that have gone through it, they understand and it's easier. So I think that I would have benefited from that a lot. And like the wellbeing walks that I offer as well and stuff like that. I think
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's an identifier, isn't it? I think like with anything, if you've got that connection with somebody, it doesn't matter if you've known them for 10 years or 10 minutes. If you've got something, a similar experience that you've gone through on your own, but you can relate it to each other, and it goes a lot further. And that's no disrespect to people who are there trying to help you. It's a shared experience, and it's, I think, really crucial for things like mental health to have those kind of support groups available for that very reason.
100%.
Yeah. You also wrote a book.
I did, yeah. I did.
So how did that come about? Was that something I can't imagine it was something that was always on the cards for you. What made you think, right, I'm going to sit down and put words to paper?
Yeah, so when
pen to paper even. Words to paper, pen to paper, pen to paper.
Yeah, so when I left the police 4 years ago, you were given the opportunity to speak to a counsellor, and that was to kind of talk through the jobs that you've been to and to kind of get anything off your mind or, just to blurt it all out when you left. So I took that opportunity up, but rather than talking about the jobs and the police, I went back to my stay in the hospital, in the psychiatric hospital, because it was so traumatic for me because of the treatment that I was subjected to. And I spoke to my counsellor about it. And anyway, 6 sessions later, we were finishing. And at the end, she kind of, Zoe, made a flippant comment like, oh my God, you should write a book about what you've been through. You've been through an horrific experience, but look at you now, you've come out the other side. You should write a book. And I thought, So the next day I started writing everything down. And at that time, I still didn't think I was going to put it into a book, but I carried on, and a year and a half later, I had all this material, and I thought, I might as well put it out there. And I always thought, by bearing my soul in my book, and because I'm completely honest with everything, I thought if I could help just one person know that it's okay to have gone through that, but ultimately that there's recovery on the other side, then I'd done my job, and it was worth me every minute spent doing it. So that's kind of how it came about, really.
I mean, incredible that was something that you pulled together, and I'd be interested to know if it was difficult to write that down, or if you actually found it quite a bit therapeutic to kind of put that all on paper.
It was hard at the time, reliving a lot of the trauma that I went through, but I would just leave it for a while and then come back to it. It brought a lot of emotions back up for me, I won't lie. I started to get panic attacks again about stuff, and flashbacks of stuff that, like I say, they've never gone, but they came to the surface again because I've relived it. But ultimately, it was really cathartic for me to be able to write it all down and get it all on paper and get it out there. But I think the most important thing for me by writing it was I felt so ashamed for like 16 years about what had happened to me. I felt like I was to blame for a lot of it, or why did it happen to me? Why me? And I felt ashamed. I was dreading people finding out about me.
Okay.
But when I put it in my book and put it out there, and because of the response that I had from my book, like people that it had helped and they got counselling off the back of reading my book, my shame started to lift.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I didn't feel ashamed anymore about what happened, and that for me was worth every bit of it, because that it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so brave to put that story out there in that way. I'm assuming people close to you kind of had an understanding of what you'd gone through to an extent? I mean, how honest were you in the book? Was it completely candid?
Brutal. Yeah, I've been brutal in it. I thought if I'm going to write it, there's no point holding back. No. There was bits in my book that even my family didn't know about, there was only me that knew about it.
Yeah.
So that was difficult, and that was a gamble because one, I didn't want to upset them.
Of course.
And I didn't want it to be a shock to them, but yeah, they're okay about it, and yeah. Good. I'm really glad it was a positive experience for you, and it sounds like it's been extremely beneficial for a lot of others. So it's what a nice place to be at with that. I wanted to know what the best bit of advice is that you've ever received, be it in your personal life, in your career. What just to round off our conversation today, what's the best bit of advice you've ever been given? I think going back to the time when I was trying to recover, I began to see a counsellor, a private counsellor, and I always remember some words that stuck in my head from her. When we were talking about everything, she said to me, "You've got to stop living in fear of fear."
Okay.
And I loved that.
Like that.
Yeah, because I did for so long. I was always worried about what might happen. Oh my God, is this going to happen? Am I going to have another breakdown?
Yeah.
Am I going to get ill again? But if you think about it logically, you can't always live in fear of fear, can you? You've got to take each day as it comes and just roll with the good times, take the bad times, and just build on them and learn from them. So that's something that that's always stuck in my head, and that's something that I've always tried to stick to, really, and just kind of go with the flow with things more.
Do you stick with that?
Yeah, I do to a certain point. Yeah. It's taken time to do. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
She didn't say it and then I was cured and I came away. It's practice.
Yeah.
It's like with anything, isn't it? It's learning your techniques, learning what works for you, and just building on them and just finding what works.
What do you feel works for you now? Have you got any sort of mechanisms or activities or things that you turn to when you feel perhaps some stress or emotions building up? How do you cope with those now?
Yeah, because I do still get those.
Of course.
Although I'm better,
Yeah.
I still do suffer from anxiety and stresses like everyone else.
Yeah.
But I know my triggers. I will take my foot off the gas if I'm starting to feel like I'm declining a little bit or getting a bit stressed. But ultimately, exercise, massive for me. Running, absolutely love it.
I relate to that.
Yeah. And like we talked about it earlier, didn't
we? We did.
It's so important for my mental health. If I have a really shit day and I'm thinking, oh my God, I feel stressed here, I can feel it in myself.
Yeah.
But I'll put my running shoes on or I'll go to the gym and just that hour to myself, put my headphones on in my own space, it just does me the world of good. It's just, it de-stresses me.
Reliant on that then?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I couldn't be without exercise. I know if I'm busy, if I've got a busy week or I've been ill for a week and I've not been able to do it, I'm like a caged animal. I'm like, oh my God, I need to do something. You can feel it, can't you?
Sometimes I get told, just go for a run.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
Yeah. I'm proper naughty. I need to go.
Do you know what? Sometimes I feel I get quite frustrated with myself. It's turned into a bit of a therapy session, this, but sometimes
it's okay.
I get a bit frustrated with myself because I think, why do I rely so much on that to make me feel better? And then I get in my head about it and I think, is this a problem? Is this a problem that I have? But I look at all the things like, is it obsessive? Is it having a detrimental impact on other parts of my life? All the questions you should ask when you like something. Maybe you think, oh, do I enjoy this too much? Am I sort of going a bit overboard with this?
Yeah.
And everything has very unproblematic answers. So I've got to the point now where I've just got to accept it. But for a while, I did second guess myself, and I thought, well, is this normal to be able to rely on this? And I spoke to some people, and they're like, totally. You know, this
Definitely.
is it's
there's worst obsessions.
Oh,
isn't
well,
there?
exactly.
That's what I always say.
100%. And it's good for you physically as well as mentally. You know, you're looking after yourself, you're getting out there, particularly running outside, getting fresh air. So I've come to the conclusion that it's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You can sometimes, I don't know, maybe that's just a personal thing for me. Why am I reliant on this? But I've accepted it.
Definitely. And that's part of it, isn't it? It's
I
acceptance.
think so, yeah.
And like I say, there's worse things to be obsessed about.
Yeah.
It's good for you. And I promote that with a lot of my clients now, is the outdoors, walking, exercise. It's good for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone promotes it. It is. It's good for your endorphins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I think spoken about so much, but there's always a reason for it because it actually works.
It does, 100%. I won't be without it.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Beck, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Such an incredible conversation. You've gone through so much, and here you are today, sitting in front of me, being able to talk about it and reflect on it as well. And I'm so grateful for you to be able to do that for our audience today. So yeah, thank you.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you.